What is going on, Wolfpack Nation? Thank you all so much again for tuning in today as we are joined. It's actually got a special, I guess, a special episode today as we're joined by Alec Lower today from Big Brick Energy, backing the pack. Alec, hope you're doing well today, and thanks for joining us today for our weekly live stream.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. Excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. And real quick too, Alec, for those who don't know as well, and I mean, I'd love to hear a little bit as well, just kind of a quick thing. So if you wouldn't mind, just kind of filling our viewers in on kind of Big Brick Energy and back in the pack, and just kind of talk a little bit about the platform and just kind of filling us in on where to check it out. Where's the best places to see all things NC State.
Yeah, so Back in the Pack is SB Nation's NC State sports blog. I started there. Actually, I think I was a senior in high school when I started there. So it was kind of just because I felt like it. I was interested. I didn't really have like a writing background or anything. It was just something I wanted to do.
Yep.
And it really opened up a lot of opportunities to meet a lot of great people in sports media and
Hmm.
not really cover NC State, but write about blog about the team for fun. And
Yep.
it's been pretty cool and leads to stuff like being on here with you guys. So
Absolutely. Well, obviously, one of the big reasons why we wanted to bring you on is obviously back at the beginning of December, I think it was, yeah, December 3rd, you came out with an article that was titled "Patience Has Paid Off" with Dave Doeren, and the numbers are there to prove it. And so, I mean, wanted to kind of first of all ask, you know, was that something that was asked for you to create, or did you just, I mean, did you just decide to one day to write it?
it was something that was kind of like in the back of my brain for a while there, because I mean I've been thinking about like the numbers behind Dave Doeren for a while this season. We're talking about like after they beat Syracuse, right? It was the fourth winning conference season in 5 years. I
Mhm.
was aware of that, being something they hadn't done in a long time. So
Yep.
I feel like he's still kind of polarizing to some people, having
Mhm.
those two opportunities to win an ACC championship and coming up short. And I just
Mhm.
really wanted to say like, hey, look what this guy's done that like has not been done since like 88.
Mhm.
So that was really what I wanted to say, and I waited until they until they beat UNC to win to write it. But
Right.
yeah, that was that's been my point with Dave for a long time. Is look where we were before him, and look where we have been, over the last 5 years. And I just really wanted to put that
Mhm.
into words.
Yeah, absolutely. And make sure to, for those who are tuning in with us, feel free as well to give us a comment. Let us know, just first of all, let us know who's tuning in, but also to any questions, thoughts, or whatever it may be that you want to add into the conversation. Make sure to send those comments our way. And while we're having discussion, but anyway, yeah, I mean, so because I think for us, especially with Doran, it's kind of interesting because if you look at his overall ACC record, he's 34-40 in the ACC during his time at NC State. Now, obviously, it's been very basically going from the bottom to the top. Basically, I mean, because his first year he went 0-8 in the ACC, and then he went 3 years straight of going 3-5 in the ACC. So I mean,
Yeah.
so that's. But I mean, since then he's gone 6-2, 5-3. Had the 1-7 year, but then he went 7-3 and 6-2. So basically, 4 out of the last 5 years, he's had 3 ACC losses or less per year. So so I mean, I guess I wanted to kind of ask you. So I mean, looking at basically that from that 2016 to that 2017, that was kind of I feel like the year that really the program itself took the next step. And even though I mean we went 7-6 and 3-5 in 2016 to 9-4 and 6-2 in 2017. I want to kind of ask your opinion. Is there something that you kind of take a look back at and kind of can contribute to maybe what helped kind of us taking that next step from 2016 to 2017?
Yeah, I think it was the talent base building. You look at 2017; that was his first real senior class.
Yeah.
So he was working with O'Brien's players, the first couple of years, and whatever your opinion of that is what it is, but it wasn't his talent base.
Mhm.
So Doran's a guy that's really come in, and he's been a really good identifier of talent and a really good developer of talent, and it's allowed him to succeed with the talent pool that really is open to NC State, which traditionally doesn't really include many of your blue chip high 4-star, 5-star players that you see on like the recruiting sites and
Yeah.
all that. And so what happened basically is, he got those guys into the program that have, that identified have this, these high ceilings, like your Bradley Chubbs, your BJ Hills, your Jalen Samuels, those kinds of guys.
Mm-hmm.
And it just developed with them. And if you look at what happened in 2016, they went 3-5 in the ACC, but the team was actually, the ceiling was actually a lot higher than that. Right. I mean,
Yeah.
they lost to Clemson in overtime. They lost to Florida State because they dropped an interception.
Yep.
They really lost 4 games that they should have won. So you could see it brewing there. And then they got
Yeah.
everybody coming back. And that was, it felt like a switch flipped there, but I don't really think it did so much as they just, won some of those games that they almost won in 2016.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
curious, Alec. Well, go ahead, Leighton.
no. Well, because I mean, definitely too. I mean, especially like I feel like that ECU game. That's one in 2016 playing at ECU that was definitely at the time everybody was giving Doeren a hard time because he made the comment basically saying that it was ECU's Super Bowl, which I mean now looking back at it, it's like, well, I mean, that kind of was. I mean, that was pretty much the highlight of the Bo or whatever his name was tenure was beating a state at ECU his first year. So, but yeah, I mean, obviously Clemson was a tough pill to swallow, and then Boston College, and Florida State are a tough one. So, I also think too that I mean, it really kind of I feel like that was kind of a maturing year for the team as well. And I know we'll talk a little bit more about that, but Megan, I wanted to let you go ahead and add in your question.
Well, yeah, I'm just curious, Alec. First, even I kind of hopped on like just about a minute behind y'all starting, but it was your article is awesome, man. It was really great
Thank
work.
you.
But the my thoughts were because you mentioned that first year in 2017 was Doeren's senior class. I guess a couple of questions. How do you feel like this class now? People look back at the 2017 team and think that was like their best year under Doeren,
Mm-hmm.
arguably. Do you think where do you think 2021 and 22 stack up? Because he's kind of got his next cycle going through to a degree, and he's hit that. Do you feel like it compares at all, or where do you see some comparisons class wise or similarities to the 2017 team that you're talking about that was so good in his first senior year? Do you see that now?
Well, I think one of the things that's changed is they're good in kind of a different way. So in 2017, right, they had like supreme top end talent. Like Bradley Chubb was a top 5 draft pick. I still think Kelvin Harmon was the best wide receiver in the country that year. But that team didn't have a lot of depth, and it had some holes in it that you don't see that as much now, which I think that's sort of a illustrative of how like 2021 is like the next evolution for Dave Doeren from what we had in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
Because his teams now, I don't think they have the outright talent at wide receiver that they had with Jacoby Myers and Kelvin Harmon, and Mecca Mezzi was even there then. I don't think they have necessarily the talent at the offensive line all the way through or at the defensive line, but the team is deeper and it's more complete. And so that's actually, we talk about that a lot this year, right? With their ability to like withstand all the injuries that they had and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
I think both, they ended up with similar records, but kind of in different ways. I don't think in 2017 State could have withstood the injuries that it took this year.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess that's one way that they are different is this team was deeper and more complete, even if it didn't have quite the top end talent that one did.
Sure. And then my other thought was if you're referring to the 2017 season being Doeren's first year, okay, he's got his guys. Let's see what the first real look of Doeren is like when he's got all of his best talent he can get in his first go around.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like going from there to now, I get, to me, part of it's 9 years and get that. Do you think the criticism is fair to a degree of Doeren?
What do you mean criticism? What kind of
as far as criticism and the success he's had to this point in his career, coming from where O'Brien left him to where he ended up now, and now that he basically, what I'm trying to get at, what my thought was, 2017 was just like you said, his first senior class that he really had of his guys.
Mm-hmm.
You could argue that since then, minus the 1 year, he's been at least 8 wins. Do you feel like people just look too hard at the early season when he didn't have success, do you think that's justified? Or do you think the factoring in the 2019 season is? I mean, I don't know. I'm just kind of curious what your thoughts are relative to how he has progressed in his recruiting classes, given where he started. And you're saying the 2017 team was his first full cycle to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
He's been successful since then, minus the 1 year that he had all those injuries.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things to say about that. The first one is 2019 when they went 1-7 is, to me, is an outlier. I mean, statistically, it is an outlier. So I think people that throw that in with the ACC record and all that, it's yes, it counts, but it's not particularly irrelevant because it's not actually representative of where the program is.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the larger point with when we talk about like people mentioning like the overall ACC record and what criticisms he's still getting is, he had to come a long way, because we talked about, and I wrote about this as well, that like a lot of the things that he's done haven't been done since the late 80s or early 90s. So you're talking about recruiting kids today, like obviously they weren't even close to alive then. There's no history really to sell to these players.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, people, I think people want to see, a coach like a magic coach that can come in and go like 7-6 his first year, 9-4 second year, and then get 11 wins his third year, and then you're just rolling along. And it's it maybe that guy does exist, but if NC State football was going to be good again, after 25 years of being somewhere between 3-5 and 4-4 every year, this is what it was going to look like. It was going to be a guy who came in and was a solid recruiter, but was more so a great identifier and developer of talent, and was going to build his team around a base of the upper echelon, mid-level guys in the state, and guys like that from other states who he could get on early because he's identified them, and who he could win, the smaller recruiting battles over, because they were passed over by the better programs. That's what it was going to look like, and that's pretty much exactly what Doeren came in and did to a T. And I think when people criticize him with like his record and stuff like that, what they miss on is that had to build over time, right? You talk about everybody wants to keep the best players home. That's what we always talk about. Like you got to keep these Clemson from stealing players from North Carolina and Georgia and Virginia Tech and whatever. But you have to give those kids a reason to stay, right? You're not going to find a person who's going to come to state and be like, boom, top 10 recruiting class. That's not going to happen. Right. So like, this is what it was going to look like always. And I just, what I want people to understand is that like, it was always going to take some developing time to do that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think that 2019 season really hurt him almost unfairly, because like you said, it is an outlier, and there were so many injuries on that team, and it was easy to look at it at the record and say we're 1-7 in the ACC in year 7 of this coach. It's I can see how he got a lot of criticism that year, but I mean, if he doesn't have that year, I think it's a very different story around the fan base's feelings of Doeren.
Yeah, and real quick too, I want to give a shout out to the people that are checking in the comments. So Justin said, "What's up, everyone? Go Pack!" So hey, Justin, hello, Dexter, and then Ted Carreras, who's a Florida State, NC State fan. He says he's checking for San Antonio, is waiting on some wrestling talk. And don't worry, Ted. Obviously, we're still in the early stages of wrestling season. Obviously, haven't hit the meat of wrestling yet, but we do have plans to bring on some guests to actually be doing some wrestling talk here. Probably either later this year or later this month or beginning of January. We'll see. And then Colby K asked a question, and we'll kind of touch on this quickly. But is Leary the best Wolfpack quarterback since Russell Wilson? So Alec, I mean, I know us here at Tuffy Talk, we put out our list of top 5 quarterbacks recently. So I'll let you answer that. So is Leary the best Wolfpack quarterback?
Which,
since
by the
Russell
way,
Wilson?
we've been roasted on every single thing we put out. So
that's okay.
Not everyone. Some of them.
Well,
but
it feels like everyone.
That's okay.
So got a hot take on that one for you guys.
Oh,
as a college player, I think Leary's
That's
better
all
than
it is.
Wilson.
Yep.
I think he's the best quarterback they've had since Rivers.
wow. It's a
That
bold
is a
statement.
hot take. I thought you were going to say like he's the best. He is the best since Wilson. I thought that's not really a hot take, but I was going to allow it. And then you said he's better than Wilson. I was like, oh wow,
Now
that's pretty
I do
strong.
think now I think when people talk about Russell Wilson, a lot of what he's done in the NFL and at
Let's look at the
Wisconsin
stats.
kind of gets pushed back on top of him at NC State. But
Yeah.
I'm just talking about at NC State as a college quarterback. I think Devin Leary is the best quarterback that they've had since Philip Rivers. I think he's the full package. Yeah, I mean, I think so. That's my take.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to look at the stats now. He had 31 total touchdowns. So Russell Wilson in 2008 had 17 passing touchdowns. Excuse me. That does not factor in rushing touchdowns. He had 4. So he had 21 touchdowns total, 4 of them being rushing. So you can assume the other are passing. 2009 he had 31 touchdowns, went on 4 rushing. So he had 35 total. In 2010, which was his last year at State, he had 28 passing touchdowns and 9 rushing touchdowns. So he had 37 total. So, and then he was averaging about 7 yards attempt, passing. I'm just kind of looking at the stats to compare, and I'd be curious. I'll go back and look at what Devin Leary's are right now. He's still got another season to go.
But really, the point of all really is, I mean, how amazing is it that once again, I mean,
We can have the conversation.
Well, like, with under Dave Doeren, you've had Jacoby Brissett, you've had Ryan Finley, you've had Devin Leary, who all of them, you could make an argument that they are a top 5 quarterback in NC State history. I mean, and I think Leary is definitely in that conversation. Finley's there. Jacoby Brissett's in the conversation, but I think a lot of Jacoby's argument is more for how much he really helped the program. I mean, are we sure we would really be here today without Jacoby Brissett and him, deciding to come to NC State and take a chance on Doeren,
I was saying the same thing. I think Jacoby may be one of the biggest gets Doeren's had.
I could argue that.
And what he had. I'm not saying like he was one of the best players, although he was.
No,
he was one of the best players. Top 20
Mhm.
players in Doeren's tenure, probably. But what he meant for the program coming in, I think will be completely overlooked because, like you said, Leighton, Finley, maybe he comes, but he's not really probably not coming if State doesn't have at least the success they have. And
they didn't bring Drink too, so
sure. I mean, I think he could argue he's one of them up there. But yeah, I think your take, Alec, about him being better than Wilson is pretty strong. That's a hot take.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at this the other day. Also, it's like I don't remember how the exact years align, but I think in 2010, which was State's best year with Russell Wilson, I think he threw 14 interceptions. I think he was 28-14.
Yeah,
I don't think he ever had better than a 60% completion percentage at any of those years.
Right. You're right. He had his best year for completion percentage was 2009. He at 59.3. And you're right. His last year, he progressed with more and more interceptions. I'm trying to look at how many attempts he had. He had more attempts his last year, so the interceptions would maybe go up. But I'd be curious to know what it is compared to Devin Leary. You make a good point. He did have a lot of interceptions,
and that was also a team that couldn't run the football at all. But that's true this year too. I mean, in both cases, like that's your whole team really is your passing game. And I mean, Devin 35 touchdowns, 5 interceptions.
Hey, you have Devin Leary this year, 431 passing attempts, 5 interceptions. Russell Wilson his last year, 527 attempts. So he had more passing yards by 90 yards, 90 more attempts, excuse me. And he had 9 more interceptions. So the average is better for Leary there.
Yeah.
Now, one interesting thing which AJ Riddle just brought up, which I kind of was interesting, was basically saying that Leary played with better running backs and wide receivers than Russell Wilson did. And I would actually argue, my opinion is definitely I would take, because basically, so 2010, he had Russell Wilson, had Jarvis Williams, Owen Spencer, Darrell Davis, and TJ Graham. And then Leary has Devin Carter, Thayer Thomas, CJ Riley, and Emeka Mezzi. And I mean, from your point of view, Alec, do you think that Leary had the better wide receivers, or would you take that group of wide receivers?
I think Leary had better wide receivers, and I think he has a guy in Emezi who he can trust to just go get the ball, which is a huge thing for a quarterback, right? I mean, ask Ryan
Sure.
Finley about that. I mean, a big thing.
Yeah.
But I agree that the backs are better with Leary, but that's not the whole component of the running game. This team this year, I mean, they gave up on running the football because they just couldn't do it. Which I think is a comparable thing, like I said, to Russell Wilson. So, I mean, in that respect, that's pretty similar to me.
The only thing I will say about the running game this year, in part, I don't think it was more so they just realized, we can't run. That's my opinion. I think it was part because you saw them run pretty well against Carolina for the most part, relatively how they had been. I think it was really because they realized, you hear Doeren at the end of the post game conference at the end of the Carolina game. He said they talked about that last drive, or he said, you want to kick a field goal here or something like that. You want to punt it here. I think it's a kick a field goal.
Yeah.
Get the ball to Leary. He's cooking. Basically, I think they just realized how good of a quarterback he is throwing the ball, and it's kind of like that. That's my opinion. I think it was like, we need to run, but we just need to run just enough, I feel like. And then Leary's 5 interceptions on 400 plus attempts this year. I mean, 30. How many touchdowns did he have this year? Was it
35?
35. So
yeah,
all passing. So it was. And I just think that was that's my opinion. That's my opinion. I think it's because he was so good throwing the ball. To a degree, they realized they were struggling, but I don't think they felt as bad because they're like, this guy's killing it right now.
Yeah, I think they had a lot of confidence in him. Like you're saying, Macon. It was after we scored the first touchdown, so we were only down 2, and Tim Beck asked Doeren if he wanted to play for the field goal because at that point a field goal would have won it also, and he said no. Let's go with Leary.
Yeah,
but different opinions. That's interesting though.
Yeah. Well, because again, too, I mean, I don't necessarily think that it's not that we couldn't run the ball. I just think, especially when we got to the red zone, that's where just we weren't really effective finishing into the end zone. So that's where we relied a lot more on passing the ball. But again, it's not. Emeka and Ricky had solid seasons. There's a reason why Bam is considering going pro, and there's a reason why Ricky is going pro, because obviously they had decent enough seasons, at least, that they feel confident enough to test the waters of the NFL, so but I get it. Obviously, this year passing the ball was at a completely different level than running the ball this year, but
100%.
But because even for next year, I know again we're going to eventually kind of start talking about 2022 here, but looking at like Jordan Houston, looking at like Demi Sumo, them possibly testing the transfer waters, bringing another running back. With a guy like Jordan Houston, these guys, it's kind of tough to look at. But Alec, do you foresee that that they're going to basically focus more on trying to improve the run game this offseason, or do you think that maybe they'll stick with the same game plan for the most part, since they are getting so many guys back?
Well, I think you have to. You have to be able to run the football. I don't think you can win an ACC championship being super one-dimensional. I guess Pitt kind of did this year, but I think my point was stay running the ball. We talk about Bam being good, right? Bam is obviously very good. But if you look at the team, right, on like a yards per carry basis, I think they're 11th in the ACC, and in total rushing yards, I think they're 13th this year. 4.1 yards per carry. So a lot of that is also, Bam is a hard guy to tackle. And I think you saw this maybe a little more last year than this year, but the run blocking last year, 2020, was real bad, but he still averaged over 5 yards a carry because he is, he's a tackle breaker, right? You got to gang tackle him. So we talk about the running game for next season, a lot of, what they're going to do, I guess, depends on whether or not he comes back. But I think, my concern is if he doesn't, and obviously you're going to lose Icky, and we don't know the status of Chandler Zavala. I have some question marks about that. There's only so much you can do when you talk about running the ball, as a coach and as a schemer, when you're not blocking well. And, if you're going to be without your top two backs and you're going to be without Icky, I think you might end up seeing a team that, throws first and throws second and throws third again. It really just, we'll wait and see. But I like Jordan Houston. I like shiftier, quicker backs like that, smaller guys, because I think they can actually sometimes work better, with when you get, not elite run blocking, because they're faster, they're more explosive. So I guess we'll see how that works out. But
now Justin kind of asked a question about so first of all, do you think Houston comes back next season? And I wanted to go ahead and jump on that because I wanted to say if he didn't leave during the season where he was basically almost seeing no action whatsoever, then it was obvious that he was waiting for next year to basically be his year. Now, my question is, if Bam comes back, do you see Houston transfer? And I mean, I'm curious, do you guys have any thoughts on that? I mean, if Bam comes back, do you see Houston transfer
Well,
to get his full shot somewhere?
I don't. I'm not going to give a yes or no. I'm not going to say that.
Right.
I think what's interesting factors here, you've seen us put this out there, and it's just like everybody else. David Thompson, not the basketball player, but the sports writer, David Thompson, and a few other guys talk Inside Pack Sports, Pack Pride, Wolfpack, all these guys, back in the pack. Basically said, this culture is the team has got right now that like
Unreal.
Nobody's transferring.
It's
I don't
unreal.
know. I don't know. So what now? I do think if Bam comes back, you could think, well, I am going to get more of a workload because it'll be me and Bam, versus me, Ricky, and Bam. But I would think the wise thing potentially for him, I don't know if the wise thing, but I think he would probably look for an opportunity elsewhere because he's too good of a running back, in my opinion, to just stay on the bench
Or be number two.
Could he be like a guy? Could he be like look? Could he be like the next Papa at Virginia? Yeah. Could he be? Could he be somebody? Could a team like right now Virginia Tech use him? Could a team like I don't know Syracuse use him? Yeah. I mean, I'm just kind of give you those kind of teams. Those are kind of teams I could see him starting for right now. But I do think he's. Do I think he stays? If Bam comes back, I don't know. I just think there's some interesting factors right now. I think it's going to play. The fact that Ricky's going away is going to be pretty interesting because it kind of makes it more iffy to me.
Yeah. Alec and Michael, either you guys have anything to add on that?
I mean, not really. I kind of along the same lines. If Bam leaves, if Bam leaves, obviously he'll be in line for the starting position. But even if Bam comes back, there's plenty of room. We saw it this year with it for a two running back backfield.
I think the only thing to note extra with that is that it's pretty clear that Houston wants to be here because I don't think he had any ideas about playing this year very much behind those two guys, but he came back this year. So I'm not going to pretend to know what's in the guy's head, but I don't think he would have done that if he was like not wanting to be at NC State. So.
Well, because like Trent Penix, I feel like is a story that I know a lot of fans talk about, but I still don't think they talk about it enough. Literally, how this guy came in.
Oh no, they don't.
And I mean, this guy. But I mean, honestly, I mean,
or Tootle.
Tootle too, but Trent, but with Trent, my story is that basically how this guy, it made too much sense that he is going to transfer because he's getting into his later years. He wasn't really being used much at all. He fumbled against I think he fumbled against ECU or something like that in 2019 or something like that, and he kind of didn't really see any more of the balls since. But then look at him now. He has been an absolute star this year, and he is really risen up, and
he was really the spark this team needed late in the season.
He was a big
total
spark.
Total offensive game changer when they started utilizing him.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
So
And
so
it was right when we started struggling running the ball. We got him more involved, just kind of coming out of the backfield or from the tight end position, and that really helped.
mhm.
Yeah,
So
I
so
think
speaking of guys that wanted to be here, to add to your point, Alec, he wanted to be here and he stuck here, and Doeren found a way to utilize him. And bravo to Doeren and the staff on that. So
Yeah, I think with Penix, the moment that I'll remember is going back to the Louisville game. I think the score was 10-7 in the fourth quarter,
Yeah.
and then he caught like it was like a 20-yard touchdown pass, something like that. And to me, like that, I think a lot of the credit for what Penix was able to do this year goes to Tim Beck, who I
Yep.
think he's caught a lot of criticism this year for the offense being largely inconsistent. But maybe a lot of that isn't deserved because there's a lot of creativity in what they do with Penix and Tootle and guys that did not play a role at all prior to this year. And they made that work. I think he won the Louisville game. The offense coordinator won the Louisville game, and the defense, of course, who was unstoppable.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I think a lot of that's some of the good work that Tim Beck has done is what you get with a guy like Penix and Tootle, and I'm excited to see who the next guy is that fits that role.
hmm yeah. Well, and it's funny you mentioned Tim Beck because obviously during this season, I know that, and heading into this offseason, Gibson's been the coordinator for us. That's really gotten a lot of, focus, and I mean, and well deserved too. I mean, I think there's really hasn't been a single game this entire season where you've kind of looked at the defense and gone, they're struggling today. I mean, overall, pretty much every game they at least were solid, pretty much every single game. So hats off to him. But I mean, with Tim Beck, I know that he's a guy that's definitely got a lot of heat, just like you were saying. But at the end of the day, too, he's a guy that's creative. He's a guy that, I mean, like the offense overall, in terms of scheme wise, is exciting to watch. It's not just like and because with like Matt Canada, for example, I always bring up his offense because I watched it in practice in person, and watching, practice every single day and watching the same general, okay, here comes the fake jet sweep and then and then the handoff to the running back or the fake rollout. Like, I mean, not saying that Matt Cato wasn't creative, but I just felt like it was kind of a little bit, repetitive in some ways, but also too, I mean, with Beck, I mean, I don't know necessarily how much credit you can give him with Leary's development. I feel like you got to give him a lot of it. I mean, there's no doubt that he's developed from his first year where he was really, he wasn't really, most confident quarterback. Obviously, rightfully so. He's a true freshman, but man, has he developed into a confident quarterback? That's the thing that I love about Leary the
Yeah.
most. Not just his talent, but he is arguably one of the most confident quarterbacks I have ever seen. I mean, he just has
He's
no
calm.
doubt.
He's
He's
calm.
calm. He knows what he can do. He knows what he's got around him, and he
I
has
like
faith
the
in
way
the team.
Doeren made it. He said about the offense in general, but he also said about leadership. He doesn't flinch.
Mhm. Yeah. No, absolutely. So I guess to kind of ask it to you, Alec, I mean, do you have any worry at all with Beck at all? I mean, or do you see him as being as a guy that as long as he wants to stay in state, that will gladly have him?
I like Tim Beck. I've always liked Tim Beck since he's been here. I think the biggest indictment of his coaching was 2020, Bailey Hockman actually. I
Absolutely.
mean,
Yes.
Bailey Hockman is, this is just a fact. I'm
Came
not
out of
trying
nowhere.
to bag on the guy or anything, but he got benched at Middle Tennessee State, but he was a solid starting ACC quarterback for the back half of that season. He was legitimately decent. He won the team games. He won them the Syracuse game. So that to me is was all I needed to see really. But yeah, I mean, I didn't have a problem with anything really this year too much. I generally hate trick plays. So anytime he calls those, I'm like, come on, man, what are you doing? Especially when they fumble
Yeah.
against Clemson, but that's a different thing. But I thought he was, I thought he was creative when he needed to be this year. I think people like to say offense coordinator sucks when the offense is doing bad, but it's like I said earlier, this team
Scapegoat.
averaged 4.1 yards per carry. It was like 11th in the ACC. Like the year before that, they had like one of the worst yards before contact on rushing plays of any team in the ACC. They haven't been able to run the ball. And when you can't run the ball between the tackles, right, that's something that you can't do. It's hard to
When you have one of the
scheme
best
that.
tackles in NC State history.
Yeah, and so I mean, the offense wasn't going to come out here this year and be like two-dimensional and scoring 49 points a game. Like it just wasn't going to happen. But I think they mitigated it well.
Yeah, absolutely. And because one thing too, which I wanted to kind of talk about when it comes to Doran as well, that I want to talk a little bit more about him. So AJ talked about how, um, again talking about the depth of this team, and because really one thing I love about Doran, it's just like you were saying at the beginning. He doesn't necessarily go for the most star-studded guys. He doesn't go for okay, like his goal is every year is, and okay, I'm gonna have the top ranked recruiting class in the state or the country. He's going after the guys that he knows fits his system and fits what he is looking for. And I mean, like a guy like Peyton Wilson, where I mean he was highly recruited, obviously, but I mean he was a guy that fit NC State. He's a guy that fit the culture here at NC State even as well. But also too, he's a guy that again was like, I mean, Doran said it in 2014. He's a hands in the dirt,
Blue collar school.
hardworking, blue collar, football player. That is what
Built by
Peyton
tough
Wilson is.
people. The school will be.
Macon's got that printed on his
I
wall.
just watched it the other
But
day,
but
so yeah.
but yeah, I mean, so again, I mean, he's a guy that, and now is I mean, no doubtedly heading into the preseason last year, probably heading into preseason this year, going to be the easy favorite for AC Defensive Player of the Year. And I mean, he's a guy that. So again, I mean, for me, it's a huge hats off to Doran of, again, just being able to bring in guys that he can develop, and bringing in guys as well to really fit the system, not necessarily be guys that need to have 100 catches a year, or needs to be a guy that sees the ball this many times a game. It's all about and I think that you see that with every player. Tanner Ingle, even Icky. Like how crazy is it that literally Icky, who is definitely going to be a top 10 draft pick, probably a top 5 draft pick, he still hasn't actually declared for the draft yet. I mean, so
Yeah.
it's like what
That
do you
would
like?
be insane.
Even all
It's
of
not,
us were like,
honestly, it should not happen. He needs to go pro. But
go
imagine if he
pro,
said,
please, Icky.
"Nah, I'm going to run it back."
Yeah, that'd be
Mm.
I'm
nice.
like,
But
no, what?
I actually might be mad at him.
Like,
Which
what
is
are you
crazy.
doing?
But I mean,
He doesn't want to go play for the Jaguars. Is all it is.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, I wouldn't want to do that.
Every single draft I have him, I've seen him, and he's going to the Jaguars. I actually saw one that goes to the Panthers, and right now I wouldn't want to play for
Hey.
either one.
Panthers need him.
They need something else.
Panthers need a lot of things, though.
They need a
Yeah,
lot of
that's
things. Yeah.
yeah, but again, I mean, so yeah, I mean, I know I kind of got a little bit of a rant there, but I mean, just everything about him in terms of, I mean, the fact that, I mean, again, I will always remember him going on the AC Network with his dozen Krispy Kreme donuts. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, that is him understanding NC State, man. Like that is him understanding.
That's trolling to a T.
That is trolling, man. Like shove it in their face, Like I
Yeah,
love it.
the delivery on that one was a little clunky, but I respected the
Yes,
the
it
effort.
was.
I think you hit on a point that I want to touch back on, which is that he recruits mostly your mid-level guys, which is not necessarily a choice. Of course, you want to get the best players, but
Sure.
it's like I mentioned, like that's not really a talent pool that NC State has access to in any large capacity, especially when you're first starting out. So I think Doran really he's a guy who understood what the assignment was. He's a guy who understood how to actually win a football game at NC State. And it is by finding these guys like there's so many examples of them. Like Jalen Samuels is the easiest one. You can even go look at like Kelvin Harmon, who was still not a 4-star recruit, if I remember correctly. Although he was a highly recruited player, but
some
he's a good
places
enough
had him as a
recruiter.
4-star recruit. Some places did.
Yeah, he
So
was somewhere in the
borderline.
middle there.
He wasn't unanimous.
Yeah. But Dave is a good enough recruiter to win enough of those against teams like South Carolina and other schools that have identified like your 3-star players that might be better than that. And it's worked. I mean, and that's how it was always going to be. That's what it was going to look like if it was going to work, right? Nobody was going to come in here and run UNC out of town and all that, and run Clemson out of town and take the top 10 players in the state. Like that was never going to happen. But right.
Yeah. Now you kind of mentioned Clemson, and this is one thing I wanted to bring up, that I think that this offseason has proved that now, okay, I say proved, but I mean, I think this season has proved that it's obvious college football world. There's Nick Saban and there's everybody else. Like everybody was talking and thinking that Dabo was in that conversation with Nick Saban, and I get it. But I mean, I think that this offseason, you're kind of seeing not necessarily Clemson coming back to earth, but just you're seeing like, okay, it's not as solid as maybe like a Nick Saban is now.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I know from like some family friends of ours that are Clemson fans, they're shaking in their boots right now because everybody is transferring and obviously all the coaching staff left, the athletic director left, and obviously there's even a little bit of talks which I think are far fetched to say the least, but of like even Dabo considering like going to the Raiders or something like that, which again is super far fetched. That's not even a classified rumor or whatever it is, but there's a lot of shiftiness right now, and so do you kind of see it all? This could kind of be a moment where maybe Doeren and NC State kind of step up to the plate here, and even maybe because hey, right now the Atlantic has literally been. It might be for a little bit Dave Clawson versus Dave Doeren. That might be kind of what we see for the next couple years or so. I don't know.
Well, I think Clemson's still the gold standard for now in the ACC. Obviously, they have talent that dwarfs any other program, but
Sure.
It's this is the how long has Venables been there? It feels like since like 1943. So it will be interesting to see what that looks like this coming year. I think this is going to be Dabo's toughest coaching job.
Easily.
Yeah.
Man.
So
because the expectations are there now. That's what I mean. Like literally Clemson fans are upset they went 9-3. Like
well,
for NC State, if we go.
there.
Well, that's what I mean. Is yeah, right. But like they weren't that way, in 2010.
Hey,
I'm
gonna tell you right now, they used to be where State was, and if State ever gets to where Clemson is, we would do the exact same thing. I'm just telling you.
We would, but I would enjoy it
fair.
instead of complaining about it.
Yeah, true.
Well, I don't know. Some fans would. Some fans are complaining now about anything right now. I don't get it.
Yeah.
There's always gonna be those fans.
But again, it's healthy. It's natural. Go ahead, Alec.
The Clemson, Clemson, when Clemson was unbeatable in the ACC over the last couple of years, they had one of two things each time: Deshaun Watson or Trevor Lawrence, who were just football gods. The 1 year in between where they didn't have that, they were very beatable. It was kind of comical that they ended up as the number 1 seed in the playoff because we were right there, and so were a number of I think they lost to Syracuse, and they were gettable again this year. So I will be interested to see. If they can continue, if they can get back to being an unbeatable team in the ACC without a quarterback who's going to be the number 1 pick or will be there at the Heisman Trophy ceremony without a question or a guy like that.
Yeah, because remind me, what was the name of the quarterback between Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence? What was his name? I forgot his name.
Kelly Bryant.
Kelly Bryant. when Deshaun Watson in 2016, he should have lost to us, and he lost to Pitt, and Kelly Bryant, he lost to Syracuse. So, do you really see? I would argue pretty much from the moment Deshaun Watson walked on campus to the moment Trevor Lawrence walked off campus, they were pretty much same story for the most part. I can actually argue probably Trevor Lawrence was probably his era was a little bit even better than even Deshaun Watson's era. But I would say right now, again, it's an interesting conversation. Let's put it that way. It's going to be a big shoes to fill. Let's put it that way. For sure. Because again, it's not like Brett Venables are just getting made and are plucking off the trees.
They're named Tony
tough.
Gibson.
Hey, I see you, brother. Yeah,
Really?
no. But yeah, it'll be interesting. But hey, again, it's crazy though that literally during this offseason, as far as we know yet, things could change. But I would assume if it hasn't happened yet, it's not going to happen. That for us to not lose a single assistant coach, and also 2 players wise, pretty much everybody that we have wished to come back has come back. Like the Tanner Ingles has come back. The Corey Durdens, the Peyton Wilsons, the Isaiah Moore, the Grant Gibsons, they've all come back. So that's what I'm saying is right now, if you're a State fan, I don't know how much better you can really get in terms of a situation. Getting all your players back, all your coaches back after coming off a 9-3 season. And next year you're going to have a very interesting schedule. You have Texas Tech coming to town. You start off at ECU, so you can kind of have an opportunity right there to to blow a big punch into the local mouse. I mean, obviously, national wise, it's not going to be looked at as necessarily a big game, but locally, well, that's a big game.
Mhm.
That is
Yeah.
a big game. Huge game.
Just one thing that I realized is, thank goodness Quinn Ewers didn't end up at Texas Tech, because that game would have gotten a whole lot tougher.
Yeah.
You never know.
That's true.
Lane, I got a
That's
question.
true.
Are you holding that microphone right now?
I am. If for those
He's
who
like,
are
Let me
watching,
just tell you something. I'm gonna.
let me tell you. No, for those who weren't watching, yeah, my microphone stand fell off of the table, and for those who were watching that
I
maybe
missed
caught
it.
it,
I'm
all
like,
you
when did
saw
that
was
happen?
all you saw was it fall off and me going, okay, I'm gonna hold it, I guess.
That's hilarious.
So,
But you did
uh,
smooth. I just noticed that. Made me laugh.
yeah, no, it wasn't smooth enough. So, uh, so really, Alec, I guess I'll ask you a very simple question, but would you say so? I mean, I know that Doeren, he's coming up on on a contract extension, which will include some pay raises for some of the assistants as well, like Tony Gibson. But I mean, are you? Would you say that you are full in on Doeren being the head coach at NC State for at least the next while? Not necessarily like
And why
long
is
term.
the
Because
answer yes?
and why is the answer yes? I mean, but I mean, like basically, I mean, like
Okay.
you know, I guess, I mean, is there still? I mean, are there still doubts in your head
Yeah.
before Doeren? Are you fully in?
I mean, I'm fully in. He's not perfect. I don't think there is a guy who's perfect, but
Sure.
for me, it's really about creating opportunity, which is something that they haven't really had a lot of over the 25 years prior to Doeren after Dick Sheridan left.
Mhm.
We're talking about 2010. They had a chance to play in the ACC championship game. In 2002, they had a good season, but for me, it's really about Doeren is creating opportunities for NC State to do the things that it's been trying to do since the 80s and whatnot. They were close in 2017. They lost that one game to Clemson. And if they had won that, they would have been in the ACC championship. And I wrote something way back then about how they had a chance to win the Atlantic and they did not do it, but it wasn't going to be the last time, because they had found their process and they had identified how to build NC State football, what it actually looks like. And it was proven true this year when they were 3 points, lost by 3 points to Wake Forest. If they win that game, they're in the ACC championship. So there's two opportunities to get there in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And you look at next year, you'll be talking about some of the turmoil at Clemson. We don't know what they're going to look like, but we do know we're going to get Wake Forest at home, and we do know we're getting all these guys back. Maybe it's another really solid opportunity. And if you get enough of those, eventually you're going to hit on one. And, once you win one, I mean, who knows what happens from there? And so I just think, the place that we're in right now as a program is not a place that we've been in, certainly at any point where I've been alive.
So, because let me ask you this too. So if let's put it this way. So if these guys I'm about to list off to you decided that they would call up Boo and say, "Hey, I want to come to NC State," would you take him? This isn't like Nick Saban. If Nick Saban called, okay, that's different. So if Billy Napier called, would you want him to come to NC State?
No.
Okay.
No.
What about Luke Fickell at Cincinnati?
I'm probably going to say no to all of them, because you just never know how these things work out. And I think we know what we have right now. And
All right.
unless you
So let me
You
throw
got
one
to
more
amuse
name.
Leighton here. You're just gonna keep going.
But here, so it kind of leads me, because I had one more name that I thought was interesting. Because he did win a national championship 2 years
Larry
ago.
Fedora. I'm kidding.
Brian Kelly and his fake accent.
I just love Louisiana.
I love Louisiana. Yes. No. Ed Ogeron.
oh my, I'm gonna say no.
Well, the only reason why I say
Sure.
that, because again, he won a national championship 2 years ago. So I mean, it's like,
He's the luckiest coach to ever win a national championship.
Gene Chizik.
Yeah. I'll say Larry
Gene Chizik
Fedora.
gotta
he's
be
pretty
in the
lucky, too.
conversation. Yeah.
What if
He's
Mac
pretty lucky,
Brown
too.
wanted to come 30 miles down the road?
I wouldn't let him come for free.
Someone meet him there and just say, just don't even worry about it.
Well, just like, oh my gosh, like the picture of him like saying, "I'm going recruiting." He's sitting in his car
My
with
11s.
in my
you look like-
shoes. It's like
You look
you're 80
ridiculous,
years
man.
old. Stop
Yeah.
it.
This man is single-handedly making
with a little
Jordans
boy
uncool.
haircut, and oh man,
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I can see you. I can see your depends on.
Yeah. Yeah. But Gene Chizik though, I do like Gene Chizik, but I mean I wouldn't take him over Doeren, but I mean it's now Justin Cook says Flick from Minnesota.
PJ Fleck.
PJ Fleck.
I mean, it's one of those things
Fleck.
like when we talk about coaches, there's, the fit matters to a substantial degree.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
not really examined maybe
Virginia
as
Tech.
much as, so I mean, if you're talking about these guys, over Doeren, like I don't, unless you're talking about like something ridiculous that would never happen. Like I don't think
Yeah, Nick
there's an answer
Saban
that
or
would be
Dave
yes.
Doeren.
Yeah,
Well, I'll
right.
probably take Nick Saban on that one, but I feel confident in there. But
Yeah.
Dave fits in, right? He's a good fit, and that's something that you have to give credit to the administration for, Debbie Yao for when they hired him, because he'd only been a head coach for 2 years. It wasn't like he had a good resume, but he's a really good fit here, and he's figured out how to win. And that's there's plenty of other good coaches out there that probably would not have done that. So I mean, Dave over almost any of them at this point, because we've seen it. We know what it is.
I love it. Yeah. No,
Should be a T-shirt. Dave over everybody.
Yeah,
Dave over everybody. I
Make
love
sure.
it. I love it. Yeah, no, well, again, I mean, I completely agree. I mean, because one story I love to tell that just kind of goes on the fit again is, I mean, talking about Peyton Wilson's recruitment story, which again, I'll give the short version, basically how, Larry Fedora and Doeren were going to the same game for Peyton Wilson, and this was at the time, if I'm not mistaken, where Wilson was committed to Carolina, and basically the high school had to figure out, because Fedora wanted to show up in his helicopter, so the high school had to figure out a place for the helicopter to land and all this stuff, basically have all these policies in place. And then Doeren, he came to the game in his truck, and he was wearing jeans and boots with Huxtable, and I mean, so it just fit. I mean, at NC State, we're a farm school. I mean, yeah, I know we have a great veterinary school, but hey, we have some kick butt ice cream. So for all those people who say, hey, you're a cow school. Yeah,
Cow
but
and cow is just a cool name, too. Just a side note, that's just a really cool name.
Yeah, but we also make some really good ice cream, So again, it's just like he just fits us, in terms of his what he likes to do. He loves barbecue, which
back
is
to
awesome.
the Virginia Tech thing. I had a few friends of mine a guy who's very close to Virginia Tech athletics, very close, and he said, he's been around Fuente. I mean, the few years he's been there, he's like, man, that guy, great first year. But he just did not seem to ever gel with the culture there. He just never seemed like, he always seemed like he was, you can't really tell if he was all in being there, and he just didn't really endear the fans to him and that kind of thing. And now Brent Pry being the hire as the coach at Virginia Tech, he immediately texted me. He goes, "Oh, dude, this is so much better already." He's like, it just matters. It just matters. So
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows if he's a good coach, but
Benjamin Orman just asked a funny question. Can Tuffy Talk sponsor my flight to San Diego? And I would say if we could sponsor our own flight to San Diego, we would sponsor our own flight. But golly, that's an expensive ticket. Alec, are you going to be going
Lower,
to San Diego?
Alex said something about paying for everybody's flights, is what I heard.
That's what I heard too.
I don't know if I can.
He's like, no, I didn't.
Yeah. But so we're kind of wrapping up here. So I wanted to kind of ask, one more question as well. So looking to next season real quick, Alec as well. So what would you say is the bar for next season? Just off the top of your head, like that, if they do better than this record wise, then I'm happy. If they do less, then I'm disappointed. And I won't hold you to either. Obviously, there's still a lot that has to be figured out. So
yeah,
I'm just curious on your look for next season.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, I think next year they can win the ACC championship. I think they can. I thought they could this year too.
Would you be surprised if they were picked to be the favorite in the ACC?
Yeah, I think I'd be surprised, but
Okay.
I think they can. I mean, my concerns are going to be, I think, can they run the football? Can they have consistent offense? And I think if they do that, I think they can win the ACC, and I think that'd be where my bar is. I don't know how many wins that necessarily entails. I don't know that I care, honestly, as long as they win the stupid game.
Yeah. I mean, I think you got to have at least 10 wins, honestly, to get to that point. I mean, more than likely. But yeah, I mean, I think honestly, for me, it's got to be ACC championship or bust. That's what everybody came back for. Everybody isn't coming back to beat Carolina one more time. Everybody isn't coming back to beat
Yeah.
Wake Forest. They're
Correct.
coming back to win
Good
ACC
point.
championship. Period.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's
hmm
so I would say honestly, if they don't win ACC championship, I'm disappointed. If they do, I'm thrilled. I think it's really that simple. I mean, I don't think it really comes down to wins or losses or who they beat or who they don't beat. If they win ACC championship, I'm happy. If they don't, then I'm not happy. It's simple as that. So, because I mean that's what these guys deserve. That's what they
Yeah.
said even when they were being recruited. That's what Josh Harris, Savion Jackson, all those guys said. We're coming to NC State to win an ACC championship. Period. So
Yeah.
Tell 'em,
I
Layton.
mean,
You tell 'em,
who,
Layton.
if you can win the ACC at 8-4, that's just as good as winning
Sure.
it at
Yeah.
12-0.
Wins a win.
Don't care. Again,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, we're not here to win national championships. So at the end of the day, I mean, it is what it is. But so now one other question, Alec, which I'll ask you is: so if I told you that we're preseason top 12 next year, are you surprised?
Man, I try to not put any stock in whatever the AP poll says, because I mean, who
Yeah.
really knows who's going to say what? But
Carolina was ranked number 10 in the country, so yeah.
that was
Yeah.
always
exactly.
I saw a freeze. I sent it to the guys here today. I said it's a freezing cold take tweet, which is if you guys don't follow them on Twitter, it's awesome. They just bring up everybody's. They basically just collect receipts. They had a tweet that said, "Which of these quarterbacks would you rather have for the 2021 season?" And it was Spencer Rattler, Sam Howell, DJ Uyunglele, and De'Aaron King. And all four of those guys are kind of like
We're pretty
they
bust.
didn't do anything except maybe Sam Howell, but not really.
Mhm.
That was funny. So
Yeah. Now, so AJ Riddle just put out a 9-3 prediction, losing to Clemson, ECU, and Texas Tech. If we lose to Clemson, ECU, I'm flipping some tables. All right.
yeah, if we lose ECU,
if we start off
it's
losing
over.
ECU, I'm flipping tables. I am
I don't think
burning.
we're just ECU.
There's no way. Oh my God.
Well, I don't say
especially
there's no way because I'm telling you what, Virginia. Let me put it this way: ECU is not a bad team. They're not
they're
been as
not a
bad as they
bad
have
team.
been. But NC State, if they lose to them, put it this way: ECU is going to be a litmus test for State this season. If they can go down on the road first game to ECU, who will be their Super Bowl, they will be on fire. Holton Ahlers is going to come back for ECU. If they somehow can beat them, and we can beat them handily, man, I'm going to feel pretty good. Assuming everybody stays healthy for the season.
So breaking news here. I just saw it. But Miles Frazier's top 3: Buckeyes, Florida State, LSU.
Man, what?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that blows. So, all right. So yeah, Icky, we look forward to having you back next season, man. We can't wait to have you. No, again,
That
yeah. I
sucks.
mean, it does suck, man. Florida State,
Well,
really?
Unfollow.
Florida State, come on.
He's from Florida, I think so.
He's a Florida guy, so
I know.
I imagine that's probably where he'll go. Honestly, to be honest with you,
who wants to go and deal with the Norvell madness right now? Though that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like
that's where 24/7 had him. They was predicting him to Florida State.
Yeah. I get it. Hey, but and then also too, got to keep a promise here. So we did say that that's for as a thank you for everybody helping us reach our 500 subscriber milestone, that we would unveil, which is not something we usually do. We usually kind of throw it at you basically when it goes live, of who the
interview
of who we interview beforehand. I'm sorry, I was reading comments that were coming as we were going. But so for this one we are. So, and you actually mentioned her name, and that is former athletic director Debbie Yao. we actually interviewed last week, and her interview will be going live. Part 1 will be going live later this week. And so make sure to, if you haven't already followed us on at Tuffy Talk Now or Twitter or Instagram, make sure to go give us a follow so you don't miss out when we hit that. And also too, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to hit that subscribe button again and hit that notification bell so that way you're actually notified when we do go live with any of our new NC State content, or even go live for these live streams as well. You're actually notified, so make sure to go do that if you haven't already. But Alec, wanted to give you an opportunity, my friend. If you wouldn't mind just kind of giving a plug for, or if you want to, you don't have to, give a plug for Big Brick Energy, or where to basically follow you and all of your great articles.
Yeah, definitely. I'm on backinthepack.com at SB Nation. You can follow me on Twitter at Alec Lower. And if you're into fishing, check out bassblog.org, bass fishing website that we launched about a year and a half ago now. A lot of good content up there too. So check us out there.
Yep. Yeah, and by the way, too, shout out to the Bass Pack. They're the best bass fishing team in the country,
Dominant.
no doubt. So hey, us at
They're
Tuffy Talk, us at Tuffy Talk, we always support all. We support all sports. Whether it's even bass fishing, whether it's the ice pack with the ice hockey, whoever. I mean, they're all dominant. So hey. It's great to add to NC State resume. So, and again, also too, speaking of Debbie Al, hats off to Debbie Al, on all that as well, So, but anyway, so thank you all so much again for tuning in. Really hope y'all enjoyed this live stream as much as we did. We love doing these every single week, but make sure to tune in with us next week as we'll continue this conversation. And also, as we get a little bit closer to the bowl game, I know we still got about 2 weeks actually from tomorrow till the UCLA bowl game. So probably not next week, but the week after. So the weekend right before the bowl game, we'll kind of go into a full deep dive into the UCLA preview. But make sure to tune in with us and enjoy the episode with Debbie Al. I can tell you 100% to watch every single minute of it, and I guarantee you there's some crazy stuff on there you will not want to miss.
Good perspectives in there.
Exactly. So thank you all so much again for tuning in. Thank you, Alec, as well for joining us. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It was fun.
Absolutely, y'all. All right, everybody. Hey, everybody stay safe, and as always, go Pack, y'all. We'll see y'all soon.